We're learning Perek Yud Beis in the Tanya. Just for your sake, yesterday I can't see you. I don't know. There's no interaction between us. If you have any questions, I have a phone here at my side. You could text me a question. My phone number here is 347-224-2988. 347-224-2988. All right. So we're learning about the Beinani. He's not a Rasha, but he's not a Tzaddik. We learned yesterday that the Beinani never does a transgression in his life. Very similar to a Tzaddik. Never did, never will do. Not in any of the possible levels of transgression. Doesn't do anything wrong, doesn't do anything bad. Is focused, all his actions are focused on doing good or refraining from evil. Similarly, his words are words of holiness. His thoughts are Torah thoughts, encouraging thoughts, good thoughts. He's always thinking good and making things good. This is the Beinani, so why isn't he a tzaddik? We learned yesterday that there are times when, in fact, he is exactly the same as a tzaddik. And these are the times, like now in the morning. Yesterday was a gorgeous sunny morning. Today we look up, Su Marem Einechem. We gaze up to the heavens, and it's overcast, it's raining, we cannot see, but you can take my word for it. Behind the clouds, the sun is shining still. And this is called Godless Habayra, the greatness of Hashem, who reveals his greatness every morning, because the morning reminds us, and in fact it's a reenactment of the creation of the whole world. And that is a revelation of the greatness of Hashem. Before Hashem created the world, there was no revelation of his greatness. There was no world where Hashem could be revealed. And similarly, in our own life, when we wake up in the morning, this is a time when we want to contemplate the greatness of Hashem and connect our mind with the source of Hashem's greatness, which is Hashem's Chabad, on the very highest level, where Chabad is first emanated from the essence of godliness. But then came the catch that after the person davens, and during davening, Kriya Shema, he's totally focused on Hashem, meditates, as we did the exercise yesterday, we reminded ourselves how to do it, to think about the greatness of Hashem, and then the person's heart is filled with love of Hashem, the right side of the heart, it spills over into the left side of the heart, until both parts of the heart are filled with love of Hashem, and he fulfills the commandment to love Hashem b'chol levav with both sides of your heart. But after davening, again, this review from yesterday. After davening, the awareness of the greatness of Hashem dissipates. We're distracted. We're filled with all kinds of other things on our mind. And the Yetzer Hara comes charging back into the left side of the heart to take control. And he would take control, except that there's still a Yetzer Tov there who is not going to let it happen. And so the conflict begins. Again, to review, we'll go through this quickly. Rak mipenei sholei levadei mishpat hamelucha. Since the Yetzer Hara is not the only one in charge of the territory here, he's not the sole ruler in this city, which is your body, your heart and your body. So therefore the Yetzer Hara, the animal soul, cannot express itself, and even though it's coming armed with all its desires for this world, he cannot bring these desires into actuality. L'slabish be'evri haguf, that its desires should find a home in the limbs of your body. Not in ma'isa, not in dibur, not in machshava, not in your actions, not in your words, not in your thoughts. Mamish. Not actually. What does that mean? Now he breaks it down. Very, very, very orderly in the presentation of this. As always, the Alter Rebbe is very, very orderly in his presentation of the ideas. Lahamik machshavte, in the realm of thought. This means to think deeply about all the machshavte. Lahamik machshavte, to think deeply in your thoughts, about the rewards of this world, of living in this world, all the wonderful things that you can do, all the wonderful things you can acquire. And you have to plan and think, how am I going to get the miles to be able to go where I want and do what I want and get what I want? Well, that's what the Yetzer Hara wants to do, but the Yetzer Tov doesn't allow those thoughts to get started. So per the Yetzer Hara, the animal soul wants to think, l'molis taivas libe, how can I fulfill these desires that I have in my heart? But he cannot do it. Why? Remember here, when we read this line, we always remember the story of Moshe Meisels with Napoleon, who was able to prevent his heart from skipping a beat at a moment of intense life and death danger. That he said afterwards, this was the first lesson that the Alter Rebbe taught his Hasidim. Your mind has to control and rule over your heart. As the sages tell us in the Talmud, in Brachos, that's why a person is created on 2 feet and animals are created to walk on 4. Because the animal, his head is always down, looking for food, and a person walks upright so that he can always behold the heavens, and so that his mind can control the heart, because it's a well-known principle of conflict that the person in control of the high ground has a distinct advantage, always has an advantage. This thought is brought in the Zohar, by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, in the Raya Mehemna, which means the faithful shepherd. Parshas Pinchas is a very appropriate place. The Alter Rebbe doesn't always bring the reference for his ideas, where it's from. Here he brings reference, and I think it's important that he brings the reference, because Pinchas is about how the kings of Midian and Moab sent their daughters to seduce the young men of Israel, and they were very successful about it. They did it step by step, gradually, not all at once, and the result was a terrible plague until it went to the highest levels, to a prince of Israel with a princess of Midian. And Pinchas rose up and because his mind ruled over his heart, he put a stop to the plague. To stop the plague, and he endangered his life to do so. The story is well known. And here, talking about Pinchas, the Zohar teaches us that the nature of a person is that the mind can always rule over the heart. But Toldosei, from birth, you're given this power. V'tevi Yitzirosei, this is how Hashem creates a person. Shekach noitzer ha'adam, this is how we are formed. The Toldosei, from birth, Shekol adam yochol b'ritzaynei shebemoichei l'sapek. Every single person, no matter how powerful their desires are, he has the power, l'sapek, to control himself, to hold himself in, and not to justify his behavior by saying, well, what can I do? This is how Hashem made me, I'm a hypochondriac. I'm a pyromaniac. I love to light fires. Well, it doesn't excuse you. You can't just go around burning down buildings. To say that you have desires, Hashem gave you your desires, if they're immoral desires, doesn't mean that they're right. It means this is the area of your challenge. This is the area where your humanity will excel. The story that we've mentioned several times, it's a favorite story of the young man who came to the Rebbe, and the rabbi brought him. The young man brought him to the Rebbe, and he told the Rebbe that he wanted to marry he was in love with a non-Jewish girl, he wanted to marry her, and the Rebbe said, I envy you. I don't have such a challenge. I'll never have a desire to marry a non-Jewish girl, but I'm giving you my blessing, and he gave him $1 and a blessing that you should rise to the challenge and you should be successful. Every person, what he's saying here, is every person has this power to overcome his desires, no matter how strong they are. I mean, just to coast along doing Torah and mitzvahs with no challenge, no pain, no gain, you don't really achieve anything. The Yetzer Hara leaves you alone because you're achieving anything. The real test of who you are is when you're challenged and you have a strong desire to do something wrong. How do you rise to the challenge? Like Yosef in the home of Potiphar, when he's all alone and Potiphar's wife is trying to seduce him. And only at the last minute does he save himself by remembering his father. So every person can hold himself in v'lim shel beruach taivase, and rule over the power of his desires, shabalibe, in his heart, shalei lamalis b'shalas libe, that he will not allow himself to fulfill the demands of his heart. B'maisa dibur or machshava. Just a minute, excuse me, please. Every person has the power to rule over his heart and not give in the area of thought, speech, or action. More than that, what happens? What are you supposed to do? And here the Alter Rebbe gives you a clear answer. What do I do? People ask this question. What am I supposed to do? I have very, very strong desires. I can't control them. And the Alter Rebbe gives you the answer right here. La'asiyach daite lagamri. You think about something else. A person has the power to control his mind, and you think about something else. And take your mind off of your desires and focus on something else. Mitaibus libe. Take your mind off the desires of your heart. Elahepech lagamri, and you think about something that's exactly the opposite. And not just the opposite, ubifrat el tzad kedusha. A person can think about something of holiness. Now, you're going to say, that's very nice to say, it's nice to write in a book, but I don't think it's true. But you can prove to yourself that it is true, because a person, when he's very, very involved in trying to achieve something that he desires. It's very, very important to him, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden he hears some terrible news about someone who he loves, or something that's very important to him, or a fire breaks out, or he gets a letter from a lawyer, or he gets a letter from the income tax department, and he suddenly senses that there's danger here, there's something being threatened that he cares about much more than the desire that's on his mind. He forgets about the desire that's on his mind. And it just shows that you do have the power to think about something else. And that's how you have to deal with powerful desires if you don't want to have them. K'dichsiv, as it says, Ra'isi, Shlomo HaMelech, Ra'isi, Sheyesh Yisrein L'Chochma Min HaSichlos. There's wisdom has an advantage over foolishness. Ki Yisrein Ha'or Min HaCheshach. This is very, very important concept, fundamental concept in Hasidus. Another one, big ideas coming at us in this chapter, that there's advantage to wisdom over foolishness, like the advantage of light over darkness. Peirush. The same way that light has a power over darkness, the darkness flees before the light. Shme'at, or even a little bit of light, Gashmi doiche harba min ha'cheshech, pushes away a lot of darkness. Shenitch mamela, and the darkness runs away from it like automatically. A couple of images for you. The previous Rebbe, when he was a boy, he used to learn a lot of Mishnayos. He was very good at it. He learned the Mishnah is divided into 6 sections. He learned the whole of the first section, and he could recite it by heart in less than an hour. And the biggest Hasidim, who are also very, very clever and very learned, couldn't say it that fast. And he was a young boy, and they timed him. One time he sat down with a big Hasid and with his father, the Rebbe, and they timed him. In less than 1 hour, he recited this whole section, 1/6 of all the Mishnah. And he used to get rewarded for it, and he would use the money for charitable purposes or to achieve something that he wanted to get a special watch. And then his father told him better he should loan the money to somebody else and he'd get it back. That's the whole story too. One day he goes to the marketplace and he sees a Jew that he knows there getting beaten up by a policeman, and he runs to defend the Jew, and he attacks the policeman. He's a little boy. So the policeman grabs him and throws him in jail. And he throws him into a dungeon in the city hall, in the basement of the city hall, and he's in the pitch darkness, and he hears a person groaning. Oh. He's terrified. Is this a person who's suffering from terrible wounds? What's going on? He's trembling. He doesn't know what to do. And then he's sitting there in the dark. He starts repeating to himself the Mishnayos that he learned by heart. After about an hour of repeating Mishnayos, he was calm, and he remembered he had some matches in his pocket. Kids often have matches. And he lit a match, and he could see where he was. Just one little match. He saw the room that he was in, and he saw that there wasn't a person who was wounded there. There was a little calf, which was tied up, hands and feet, lying on the floor of this jail cell, and moaning. Oh. So now he was calm. And shortly after that, his uncle came to find him because he didn't come home. So they started a search, and they found out that he'd been arrested and he was in jail. Turns out that the policeman who arrested him had stolen the calf and was accusing the Jew in the marketplace of stealing it, and that's why they were fighting. And so the policeman eventually was apprehended because of the Rebbe had been thrown into jail with him. When he returned home, his father, the Rebbe Rashab, was very pleased with him and told him, didn't commiserate with him and say, "Oh, my poor boy." He said, "You did very good. And it's a good thing you knew Mishnayos by heart, because so you suffered a little bit to do a favor for another Jew. That's a great merit that you had. And the fact that you said Mishnayos in jail is very important, because otherwise, what would have been the difference between you and the calf? The calf was in the jail cell, and you were in the jail cell. The difference was that you were able to say Mishnayos. So one little match totally changed the whole situation. Or like another story, that we often mention in class, since some of you live in apartments here in Crown Heights, where there are little creatures that come out in the dark, and you come home and you turn on the lights, and all the little creatures scatter. Similarly, it says here, that a little bit of light pushes away a lot of darkness, and the darkness just runs away by itself before the light. Kach, in the same way, nidchem amela, sichlus harbe, a lot of foolishness runs away, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of Torah, a little bit of insight, a little bit of Hashem's sanity and truth pushes away the klippa and the sitra achra shebachol hasmoli, which is in the left side of the heart. Now you're going to ask. Alter Rebbe stops, interjects a question. There are no questions here in the Tanya to speak of. You have to understand how the discussion is going. What the Alter Rebbe writes in one line raises a question, and the next line he answers the question. So here the question arises. What is the klippa doing in the left side of the heart? Kamaim Razal, and he quotes the sages from the Gemara that we learned after Pesach, between Pesach and Shavuos and Saita. Rabbi Akiva says that a person would never do a transgression, because it makes no sense to do something against the will of God. If you know something is against the will of God, why would a person ever do something contrary? You know it can't succeed. If you do what Hashem wants, you're on the winning team. Why would a person want to be a loser? A person would never want to be a loser, would never want to do a transgression, were it not for the fact that a certain spirit enters his heart, which is totally foolish, total foolishness. A ruach shtus is foolishness, etc. And what's the foolishness? The foolishness that those of you who learned Basi Lagani recently, you know that the Friedrich Rebbe writes very clearly that the foolishness is that the Yetzer Hara comes, the animal soul comes and tells you that by doing this foolish thing, don't worry, he says, I wouldn't lead you astray. You're still a good Jew. You're still connected to Hashem. And that's the folly, that a person thinks that even though he does things that are inappropriate, he's still connected to Hashem. I remember when we lived in Eretz Yisrael, I used to go to a kibbutz about a half a mile down the road from where we were staying. And it was not a religious kibbutz. And I took their matzahs before Pesach. And the person I gave the matzah to said, "Oh, great, I'm going to have this for supper tonight." I said, No. Save it for Pesach. He says, "What are you telling me how I should behave?" He puts his hand on his heart. He says, "I live in Israel, in the land of Israel. I'm connected to Hashem. I know I'm connected to Hashem. Don't tell me what to do." So this is the ruach shtus, that tells a person that no matter what you do, you're always connected to Hashem. Don't worry. Well, a little bit of wisdom, Torah thought, Torah truth, pushes this folly away, and it flees mipnei hachachma, before the wisdom shebenefesh elokis, which the godly soul brings with it. Shebemoyach, which is the godly soul, is in the moyach of the person, in the mind of the person, and is trying to gain influence over the person's life from the high ground, which is the area of the brain, and then bringing its thoughts and its wisdom and its truth into the right side of the heart, which is struggling for control. Asher ratzoino, because the godly soul, its will, just like the animal soul, its will is that it should gain control of the city. The godly soul also is struggling the whole time for control. Limshel levada, that it should rule over and be the sole ruler, be'ir, in the city, which is a person's life. Ulislabesh b'shleish levusheh, and it wants that it should be the one that is enclosed in the garments of the person's soul, in the garments of his life, which are his thoughts and his words and his actions. B'chol haguf kulei, and not just in one area, not just in one section of the city, but in the whole city. The godly soul wants that its rule and its dominion should extend over the whole of the person's life. Canal, Shehem machshava dibur u'maisa, which includes all the thoughts, all the words, all the actions of the person's existence should be actions based on embodying the 613 mitzvahs of the Torah. So, why isn't he tzaddik? This ends a major section of the chapter, and now the obvious question is: so why isn't he tzaddik? Isn't this how a tzaddik will behave? The Alter Rebbe comes to answer. Afal pikein, nonetheless, eina nikra tzaddik klal. This person is not in the category of a tzaddik. We're not talking about a tzaddik here. We're talking about the Beinanim. This is the Sefer of the Beinanim. This is the book of the Beinanim. I'm told that the Alter Rebbe once wrote a different book called the Book of the Tzaddikim, Sefer HaTzaddikim. If you want to know what a tzaddik really has to think about and how a tzaddik has to operate, that's a different book. We don't have it. It was burned. It got burned up in a fire. I guess that means the world wasn't ready for it. So the Beinani, this person is very right, a tremendously righteous person. Why is he not a tzaddik? And he answers, Sheyisrein hazeh, because the advantage we've just described, that the godly soul has over the light of the godly soul, has over the darkness. Ala choshev v'asichlis, the light of the godly soul has an obvious advantage over darkness. Light has the advantage over darkness, and wisdom has the advantage over stupidity and foolishness. When the foolishness and the stupidity comes from the klippa, and the klippa is pushed away, mamela, obvious by itself. Remember, the same way. How does this metaphor work? The same way that the darkness automatically flees before the light, in the same way the animal soul will flee before the wisdom of the godly soul. Well, this control of the light and the wisdom over darkness and foolishness, Einei Ella Mishleisha Levusheh Hanal, it only extends to the garments of the soul. Now remember, we learned that the soul has 10 aspects to it. These are holy aspects. They are rooted in the 10 holy spheres of Hashem in Atzilus, and they are the essence of what the godly soul is. As we learned yesterday, the essence of the godly soul is these 10 qualities: Chochmah, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and so on. All the 10 qualities, the DNA of the godly soul. The control that the Beinoni has in his heart does not extend to the 10 opposite aspects of the animal soul. But we also learned that every soul has garments. The essence of the soul is essence. It seeks to express itself. To express itself, it needs clothes, just like you need clothes. So, and the clothes of the soul are the garments of familiar garments of thought, speech, and deed. The control and the power of the godly soul, the light of wisdom, and the power of foolishness extends only to the garments of the person's life and not to the essence. The essence remains basically unchanged. To change the essence of a person's soul, to change the essence of the animal soul in a person's life is a life, even to move it 1 inch is a work of a lifetime. So again, Yisrael, the advantage that the godly soul has of the light of the soul and the wisdom of the soul over the darkness and the foolishness of the klippah, that is the source of life of the animal soul, even though it is pushed away automatically like darkness flees from light, this control, eino elo b'shleish levusha hanal, it's only extending to the 3 garments of the soul, volei b'mahusa v'atzmusa, not to the essence of the animal soul. So the essence of the godly soul is not overpowering the mahusa v'atzmusa shal haklippah, the essence of the klippah. Ki mahusa, fasten your seatbelts, mahusa v'atzmusa shal nefesh habahamis, the essence of the animal soul, shemi haklippah, which comes from the klippah, shebahol hasmoli, in the left side of the heart, le nidcha klal mimakoymei, it doesn't move. It's not pushed out of the left side of the heart. B'beinoni achar tefillah, when a person finishes davening. In other words, we said during davening, yes, during davening, the light of godliness, your love of Hashem fills your heart, fills both sides of your heart, and the animal soul has no place. But after davening, your awareness of Hashem, your focus diminishes, you get distracted, you remember that there's a world here, you remember all your obligations, you remember things that you have to do, you remember all kinds of pressures that you have to deal with, and problems you have to solve. And the animal soul, with all its desires, comes charging back to repossess, take up its position on the left side of the heart all over again. So this is what it says, the essence of the animal soul is not pushed away in the Beinoni after he davens. She'en mishpei eish ahavas Hashem, when the flame fires of love of God in his heart die down, he doesn't feel this flaming love in his heart anymore. She'en b'izgalus libei, they're no longer revealed in his heart, Behol hayamani, in the right side of the heart, Ki'im toiche ratzuf ahava, so his heart isn't flaming anymore, but it's glowing. There's an afterglow of the love in the right side of his heart. And the love is called now the love which was a strong, flaming love, an ava aza. That's like Aza in the southwest of Israel. It's called Aza, or in English they call it Gaza, right? So the strong, flaming love, Abba, Aza, this love, which is a strong, flaming love, dies down, and you're left with a glow, an afterglow of love, which is called a hidden love, Mesuteres, Abba Mesuteres, so that the heart is inlaid, whatever that means. It's covered with this hidden love, which is also called Abba Tavius. It's a natural love. Every Jewish person has it. It's a natural. Every Jewish person naturally loves Hashem. Shabanefesh Elokis. This comes from the godly soul, because the godly soul loves Hashem. Kamesha Kosovo. The comment is, we're going to say later. So that's how it comes out, that after a person, how it's possible that when a person finishes davening, liyes sichlos haksil hara nisgalus libei, so the foolishness of the old fool, the wicked old fool, can come back and be revealed in his heart, b'chol hasmoli, in the left side of his heart, and cause the person, even after he just finished davening with such passion. You finish davening, you walk outside, go to have a bagel and a cup of coffee for breakfast, and you're filled with taivas, l'kol, inyoni, gashmias, all of the rewards that you want to get from your life in Olam Hazeh. That's what your Yeshama wanted when you were in Gan Eden, to come down here to get these rewards.
Yes.
Bein Beheter, now this is really extraordinary. Bein Beheter, Bein Be'isser, and he has taivas, which he wants now. Permissible taivas, that's a kosher Yetzer Hara wants them. And there are even, heaven forbid, non-kosher desires from a non-Jewish Yetzer Hara in the left side of the heart. Chas v'sholem, says the Alter Rebbe, heaven forbid that anybody should fall so low. Ki'ilu le hispalel klal, and it's as if he didn't even daven at all. Ella. Wow. So this whole experience of meditation and emotion and love and davening, it just flies out the window after davening, like you didn't even daven at all. You're just back to square one. Ella, saving grace. Alter Rebbe doesn't want us to be depressed. Shodaber Isar, concerning something that's totally forbidden. We're talking about a Beinani, right? We're not talking about a Rasha who might do something forbidden, say something forbidden, think something forbidden, even very slightly, because he's a Rasha of a Toivlai, very, very edel, a very refined neshama. We're not even talking about, we're talking about a Beinani. Beinani will never come close to doing something Isser. Eine oile bedaite la'asais ha'isser b'poel mamash. It doesn't enter his power to be able to do it. Heaven forbid. Not to do it, not to think it, not to say it. Ela hehuri avera, but thoughts throng. He has negative thoughts that throng into the left side of his heart. up to his mind.
Rabbi Sholom.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to stop here. We'll continue tomorrow, Bezras Hashem.
What? What? I need a sign. I'll get the next. I'll get it. לא שלה, לא, היוצא זה של מחום.
של אתמול?
כן.
אוקיי.
Ahem.